This conference will now be recorded.
So in our previous class, we started working with data transforms, right? So using the data transforms, I can able to set the values to single value properties, or I can able to assign some values to the pages or to the page lists also. And these conditions, I mean, this can be done based on some conditions, whether one condition is true or if I want to go for some else conditions also, it is possible. Ultimately, the purpose of this data transform is to setting the values only. The same thing we can able to do using activities also, but wherever possible we're going for this property set, we have to go for data transforms. Data transforms will be very lighter and faster in the PRPC perspective. Okay, and we can able to call this data transform from many places. I can able to call this data transform from another data transform using apply data transform action, and we can able to call this data transform from activity also using one method called apply data transform. Okay, and we can able to call this from flow actions either in the pre-processing or the post-processing, and similarly we can able to call this from button click like an actions, not only button click, from any kind of actions using controls, and we can able to call this from flow as well. So if we just call it a from a flow, by default PRPC will be having py default as the OOTB flow, and this will be common for each and everything. That is the reason this py default data transform will be there in the work dash cover dash. Okay, so for every flow it should be there. So there will be many things that has to be set before running the flow. We have to set the prefix IDs, and we have to set the px create operator who is creating this particular work object ID, and what is the date time for that work object ID creation. So these kind of many OOTB things that has to be set, and that will be done because of this OOTB data transform py default. So if I just open database, and if I just see here, I can able to see all these values set, right? So py status work should be set, and like user dynasty should be set. All these values we are not setting manually. So how PRPC will be setting all this by running one flow? So this is the thing. Okay, data transform will be playing very important role in the flow perspective. It has to set all the prerequisites like PYID, PX create datetime, all the OOTP properties it has to set. Okay, so if I just open it here, we have seen that this will be under work dash cover dash. And in order to make any kind of modifications to the flow which are in the OOTP rule sets, what we have to do, we have to just save as this into our rule set, then we can only we can able to make modifications. Why? Because this rule is meant for reusable purpose, and if we're trying to make modifications in the existing rule set, it will be impacting the other flows as well. So that is the reason if you're trying to run any rule, then it will be requesting for all the rules into that rule set first, then after it will be going as per that hierarchy. So that is the reason if I'm trying to run the flow from the particular rule set, framework rule set, then it has to request for all the rules initially from that rule set. So this py default data transform will be there initially in this rule set, then it has to pick this rule. Although this particular rule is there in many OOTP rule sets also, it has to pick the latest one as per the hierarchy. If I have 100 rule sets applicable, and if I have the same rule in all the 100 rule sets, then PRPC has to pick for the latest rule set as per the hierarchy. And into that rule set also, if it is identifying 4 or 5 rules with the same name, then it has to identify the highest version of that. I may be having it in the version number 1, 2, 3 or so, right? Out of it is identifying the perfect rule set. The next thing what it has to check, it has to check for the highest rule set. And if at all it is picking up the highest rule set, again it has to perform some other checks whether the rule availability is made available or not. We'll discuss about this in detail when we're working with rule cache, rule algorithm, rule cache. What's that? There will be one more thing, rule resolution.
Rule resolution, right?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. So when we're working with that, we'll discuss on it more. So ultimately, this rule, this thing has to be executed, and it will be setting all the default properties. So if we want to make any changes to this py work ID prefix, what we are doing, we can able to either go for functions directly, or I can able to direct give the hard-coded values. Whatever the value I'm providing it here, if I'm trying to execute the flow, first this rule will be executed. That is, py default rule has to be executed before executing the start shape. Okay, first this particular rule has to be executed, then only work object ID prefix this has to be executed for creation of the work object number, then it will be starting from this start shape. So this is how it will be following. So whatever the work object ID prefix we are setting it here, that will be initially set. Okay, if I'm giving like c dash, so this particular OOTP property will be having that value, and then after it will be overwriting based on the application rule form if we are giving it there. If you're not giving it there, no issues. It will be having the same value as it is. It will not be overwriting anything. So that is the concept. In interviews, they'll be asking me how to change the work object ID prefix. We will be having two options. So the first option is I can able to directly go for PyDefalt data transform, where the value what I'm setting here, that will be as it is. If you're not defining it in the application rule form. And suppose if we're defining it in the application rule form also, then whatever the thing we are giving it here, it will not be matter. At the last, it has to be overwritten and it has to be updated with the value what we're providing there. So that is the concept. Okay. And parallel, we are discussing about something called superclass data transform, right? So for every data transform, there will be one option called call superclass data transform. So the importance of this is, if I'm marking this as checked, what PRPC has to do? PRPC has to check for any kind of any kind of data transform with the same name available in its parent classes or not. So for this, I may be having many parents. So click on view inheritance for this class. So this is the parent and this is the parent, right? So what PRPC has to do whenever I'm trying to run this particular data transform, so it has to execute in all its parent, either it is connected with the pattern inheritance or direct inheritance. That's not the matter. So it has to just check in all the parents whether the same data transform with the same name is available or not. If it is available, then what it has to do? It has to execute its parent data transform first. Then after, it has to execute his child data transform. Okay. Suppose if I'm trying to execute one data transform from a class and it is having almost like five parents. Okay. So now if I'm trying to request the rule from the last one, that is the fifth class, then what PRPC has to do, whenever I'm requesting for that particular data transform, I can able to call this data transform from many places, right? So ultimately, if I'm trying to request this from any place, it has to just check whether this checkbox is checked or not. If it is not checked, it will not be bothering anything. Directly, it will be executing this, what we are defining it here, and it will be putting for the processing. Suppose if it is having this checked, what it has to do, it will not be executing all these things first. It has to go to its immediate parent. Out of the five parents, so consider the first one is the highest parent. So out of these five parents, it has to just check in the fourth parent first. Okay, in the fourth parent, it has to just check whether this PyDefalt data transform with the same name, not only this one, whatever the thing we are requesting with the same name, whether it is there in the parent class or not. If it is there, it has to execute that first. Okay, it has to execute that first, and before executing that, what it has to check, it has to again check for this checkbox. Okay, if the checkbox is not checked, then no issues, it will be just executing that fourth parent, then it will be executing the child. Suppose the fourth parent is also having this checked, what PRPC has to do, it again has to check for its immediate parent, that is the third parent. Third parent, again it will be searching for the same name whether it is there or not. If it is there, then it has to execute this, and before executing the steps, again it has to check for the particular checkbox. If it is checked, again it has to just check for the second parent, and there also it has to check for the same data transform name, and it has to just check for this one. If it is not checked, it will be having this, it will be having all the things executed, and then after, it will be coming back to the third parent, it will be executing all the steps as per that. Then after, it will be coming to the fourth parent, it has to execute all the steps, and finally it has to come to the child data transform, and it has to set all the things. Okay, so this is the importance of call superclass data transform. Okay, clear, right? Suppose if any of the thing is not having, suppose this is the fifth data class, sorry, this is the final class, fifth class, where I'm trying to have this particular data transform. If this is not checked, then PRPC is having a mechanism to run this automatically without performing any errors. Okay, if this is checked or unchecked, there will not be any change in the uh, error handling perspective. It can able to take care internally. If this is checked, it will be checking for the looping. It has to go for its parent, then it has to do the it has to again check for whether it is having this particular thing checked or not. If it is not checked, then it has to perform all the actions as per that particular data transform. Then again it has to come back to the child and perform all the actions, and finally put it for the processing. Okay, suppose I have two data transforms. In the first data transform, that is the child data transform, I'm trying to set the value like property 1 is equal to ABC, let us say. Okay, I have two data transforms. Let us say data transform 1 is considered it as a child, and here I'm trying to have the property 1 value is equal to ABC, and property 2 value is equal to XYZ, and here it is having something like superclass checked. Okay, what it has to do, it has to just check for the same parent, same data transform name, whether it is there in the parent class or not. So this is my parent class, and if it is having same data transform name, then here if I'm having perform, if I'm trying to perform something like property 1 is equal to 123, and property 2 is equal to 456, and property 3 is equal to 789. Okay, so what it has to do, suppose if I'm trying to call this particular data transform from some place, then it has to initially execute this. Before executing this, it has to just check whether this is checked or not. So if this is not checked, finally we'll be getting property 1 value as ABC and property 2 value as XYZ. Suppose if this is checked, then what it has to do, it will not be performing this thing initially. First it has to just check in the parent whether the same data transform name is there or not. If it is not there, no issues at all. If it is there, it has to perform its own operations. So here what it has to do, it will be setting the property 1 value to 123, this will be to 456, and this to 789. So once this is completely done, it will be again checking for the checkbox whether checked or not. If it is checked, it will be again checking for the parent. If not, it will be going back to the main rule where from where it is being called. Okay, so first this will be executed, and it has to go back to the child place where it is being called, and then property 1 will be assigned like ABC. Earlier property 1 value we are setting it like 123, and this will be the initial execution, and next this has to be executed, right? And if I want to overwrite any of the things, here we can able to define. So property 1 value will be changed to ABC, and property 2 value will be like XYZ, and property 3 value will be like 789. So in the clipboard we'll be having three property. This is for first one, second one, and third one, this one. Why? Because we are not trying to override this third property, right? So initially this will be executed, and if any of the value is set also, it will be overwritten by these values. So that's the importance of superclass checked data transfer. Sorry, superclass check option. Okay, in interest they'll be asking you. Most of the people doesn't know this. Clear, right? Clear? Any doubts?
Clear, Chandra.
Yeah, Tulan, sorry, Uma. So as I
Yes,
told
Chandra.
you, if this is checked, what it has to do, it has to just check for its PYDefault data transform in its parent class, that is work dash. Let us see whether that particular data transform is there or not. So in that the rate base class we have, I'm clicking on that to open it. Okay, so what it has to do, whenever I'm trying to run this flow, what PRPC has to do, PRPC has to execute this flow first. Okay, before executing, what it has to check, it has to just check whether this is already there or not. If this is checked, then it has to check for the data transform rule with the same name in its parent like work dash. So in the work dash also we'll be having it. So there it has to check it first, and again it will be checking for the superclass data transform checkbox checked or not. Okay, so finally it will be going to the @base class. As I told you, there should be the same data transform name in its parent class, and if this is checked, it will be going to the execution of that first. Okay, suppose here we can, what we can able to understand is, when I'm running this flow, PRPC, I mean this flow rule has to execute this particular data transform. Initially it has to execute the @base class data transform, right? So that is the concept, right? Why? Because this is checked. So initially it will be setting up all the OOTP properties first. So px create operator, whoever is trying to create the particular work object ID, whoever is trying to run the flow, so that value will be created here, and this will be set in here. So all the things, this will be initially set. Then after, there will be one more PYDefault data transform in work dash. So based on that, there will be many other OOTP values there. So those will be set next. Then finally, it will be coming to this work dash cover dash from wherever we're requesting this. So it will be setting up all these OOTP rules. Okay. So initially, in between, if you're trying to have any of the values, then any of the same values, then it will be overwriting with this. Okay. So that is the concept. So now we'll work on one business requirement. Clear, right? So we have designed for 4 screens, and this is the hospital screen, I think. So after user entering all his details, like his basic details, then after his nominee details, then treatment details, then we'll be having his customer hospital details. After this, we can able to go for collection of his address. Okay, using data transforms, what we can able to do is I can able to create one section now. So our requirement here is we'll be designing one new section. In that, we can able to collect the user address. Okay, he can able to have 2 address, either for the billing as well as the shipping. So here we are trying to collect his address. So the thing here is we'll be having 2 layouts. One layout will be for capturing his billing address and another layout for capturing his shipping address. Okay, customer can able to have these 2 address separately or same also. By entering his few details, by entering his address details in the first section, if he's trying to have the same thing to be copied in the below thing, what we can able to do, we can able to have one checkbox checked, and we'll be getting all the data copied into the below section also. We'll be having this kind of requirements mostly in our online transactions, I mean online shoppings. So if you want to just copy your billing address and shipping address, then what we can able to do will be just marking one checkbox. So if we just mark one checkbox, like if shipping address and billing address are same, then whatever the data we are entering in the first part, that has to be directly copied to the second part, and second part should be made directly read only. Okay, why? Because we're trying to copy the data, and second data should not be editable. So that is the concept here. So in this whole process, we'll be having 2 dynamic layouts. First dynamic layout for capturing one section, either shipping, and in the second section or in the second layout, we'll be having one more thing for capturing billing address. So user can able to have these 2 address separately. So for that, he has to enter all the fields for both the layouts separately. Instead, if he's trying to go for the same thing, what he can able to do, we will be providing him one checkbox. So soon after the first layout, we will be putting one checkbox, and if he's entering all his details, and if you want to copy the same data to the second layout, what we'll be having, we'll be having one checkbox for that. On clicking on checkbox, we have to copy the whole data from one page to another page. For that, we can able to write one data transform. Okay, clear, right? So we can able to capture basic details like door number, street number, landmark, and some other things like zip code. I can able to have this used as well, used in billing address as well as the shipping address also. So the first thing what we'll be creating is we'll be creating these properties in the data class. So just for the reusability, we'll be creating one data class first. We'll be creating all the set of properties, and we will be using these properties in 2 different places in the work class. So that is the reason we'll be creating 2 separate pages. So each page should be referring to the same data class. Okay. Once this is done, we'll be designing the section. Let us have the separate sections. One section for the shipping details and another section for the billing details, and we'll try to include these 2 into main section. So I just wanted to show you the embedded sections again. That's it, nothing more than that. Okay, on clicking on this, we have to write one data transform. So data transform, data has to be copied if we are marking this, and if I'm trying to uncheck this, okay, if I'm trying to uncheck this, data should be wiped out, and we should be having everything in the editable format. Clear, right? So this is our requirement. Requirement clear now, both of you?
Yes, Chandra.
So first, let me create one data class. So we can able to create data class from any, I mean, we can able to create any of the rule from anywhere, right? So I'm trying to create one data class. So all the data classes should be abstract plus, sorry, concrete plus does not belongs to a class group. So create the properties. So I want to create some basic properties like door number, street name, landmark, something like this. Something like zip code. Okay, I'm saving it now. Data class has been created and we have to create few pages, that is 2 pages. Let me show you how to create the page in another way. All the time we're going for data model and this, right? And whenever we're trying to create the properties, we can able to go for data designer. Similarly, we can able to create the pages also. Instead of creating the properties, we can able to create the pages from the data designer also. I want to create one page for shipping, and this should be of field group. Did I show you this anytime?
No, Chandra.
So this has to be referred to one of the class. So this is just a field group. Field group is nothing like a group of fields. Fields are nothing like in properties, right? So group of properties. Group of properties will be calling like a page only, no? So that is the concept. So I'm trying to create one more page for this. That is billing. So this is for page list. This is for page. So just save this. So 2 pages has to be created referring to the same data class. So refresh this. So these are the pages. We can able to have all the properties. So billing and shipping. So now let me create one section first. I'm creating one section for shipping section, something like this. So create and open, and let me include all the properties. I cannot drag and drop directly. Those are created in the separate class, right? So take the M3 controls and map it back. So just make it double, and I can able to add the heading also. This is for shipping, and if you want to include any of the icon also, you can able to do that. So just click on this. We can able to give some icon. So click on gear icon. We'll be having PEGA PRPC image library open, and click on find. If you don't remember anything, we can able to see all the things here directly. You can able to include any of the meaning thing, whatever you want. So let me include something like home. Yeah, I'm including this. So click on submit. So I'm creating this, and we have to map the properties, right? So shipping dot door number. So I'm saving this now. Okay, and after this I have to include one checkbox also now. So this should be my first section, and I have to include one more section, and between these two let me include one checkbox. So I'm trying to include the checkbox here itself. So for that I'm trying to create one checkbox property. So something like is and bill same, something like this. Create and open. This should be of checkbox, right? Meaning true or false. No? So change this to true or false. It will be changed to checkbox automatically. Save it. And we have to include this here. So there is one purpose why for what I'm saying it now. You will understand after some time. So in the next classes, I'll show you how to create the sections in the data classes and how to include it into our work class, so that we cannot able to do it with our knowledge, with the knowledge what we are having so far. After some time, I'll show you. So is bill and ship same, right? So let me include it here. So add the caption. So if both are same. I'm submitting this. Okay. So save this. So shipping section has been created, and now we have to create one more section for billing. So create billing section. Click on create and open. It has to be included with the same set of properties. So make this 2 by 2 and add some heading. So include something, this icon also. So let me include this just for the differentiation. So submit this. Okay. So now I'm saving it. So I have created two separate sections, and I want to include these two sections into one main section. For that, I'm creating one more main section. Address sections, something like this. Main address section. So let me include these two sections. For that, we can directly drag and drop, or we can able to go for section include also. So for that, we have to go for embed sections, and here include the name here, shipping. Submit this. That has to be coming automatically. You can able to delete the dynamic layout first. By default, there should be one layout. If you're trying to add another layout, we can able to remove the dynamic layout. So let me include another section, that is like billing, and submit this. So clear, right? I'm saving it now. So we have created the section, and now on clicking on this, we have to perform something like data transform. For that, let me create the flow action also. So address flow action. I want to include the main section. Save this and include this into our flow. So draft off, include the assignment. You can able to take one more end shape also if you want. So I'm submitting this, draft off, and save this. Okay. So till now, let us see how it is working. This is okay. So this is how it will be looking like. So user can able to enter his details, and on checking on this, so all the details which are there has to be captured directly here, and this should be made read only. I'll be getting something like this. What are the things he's entering there, that has to be coming here, and he should not be making any changes here. So that is the reason we'll be making this as a read only if he's marking this as checked. Okay, if he's unchecking, then we'll be clearing all these things and we'll be making this as an editable. So that is our requirement. Further, we can able to go for activities, or we can able to go for data transforms also. In order to have this kind of property set, like page copy data from one page to another page, we can able to go for data transforms. We can achieve the same using activities also. So for that, let me create one data transform. So data transform can be created under data model category. So data transform, I'm giving something like copy address. Copy address data transform. Create and open. So in the real project, you should not be giving like this DTF or section. So this is just for understanding I'm giving to you. So this is how our data transform rule will be looking like. Here we can able to perform some actions. So here we can able to perform some actions. I can able to set the values from this particular page to second page. So from this page to this page I can able to go, or I can able to set this particular property to the property what it is assigned here. So I can able to go for individual property sets, or I can able to go for page copy also. This is one page and this is another page, right? So for that, let me show you initially how to set the values here. So for that, on clicking on this particular checkbox only, we have to perform this. So we have to go for some when condition. When this is checked only, we have to perform this. We have to copy the data. Okay. So for that, this particular things has to be executed only when that particular checkbox is true. So for that, apply one when condition. So for when condition, you can able to create one when condition, and we can able to define that property there within when condition, or we can able to directly define the when conditions here. So we can able to directly define the property conditions here. For that, it will not be prompting the values. For that, we have to directly copy the property value and we have to use it. So what is the property for this? So this is the property, right? So if this property is true, okay, if this property is true, then only it has to perform something. So for the step number one, I'm trying to give the condition, and within that I'll be setting few values. The when condition, if this particular checkbox is checked only, I want to set the value of billing address dot door number is equal to shipping address dot door number. Okay, I can able to go like this. Billing address dot landmark. This is the target properties. So what should be the target property and what is the source? So source we already will be having here. So this will be considered as a source. So I want to copy the data from this page to this page, from this property to this property. So this will be the target one, and this will be the source for that. So that is the thing I'm trying to give it in the source side. This will be the source for me, and this will be the target property what I want to set. Okay, shipping dot landmark. Click on plus. Billing dot street name is equal to shipping dot street name. If you provide some other values also, then these values will be applicable, but that should not be the case. So billing dot zip code is equal to shipping dot zip code. Okay, if this when condition is true, then I have to set this. Suppose if this when condition is getting false, so if I'm marking this unchecked, then I should not be having all the data. I should be having suppose if I just check this, I'll be getting data copied like this, and this will be in the read only, that's secondary. And if I'm marking this unchecked, then all the data should be cleared off. So user is trying to uncheck this just to enter his data manually. So that is the reason we have to clear all these fields and we have to make this available for the data input, and this should be editable format for that. So that is the reason we have to add one more when condition parallel to this. So after the first condition is completely done, let me add one parallel condition to the parallel step to this step number 1. So if we click on this step number 4, I mean 1.4, if we click on plus, one step will be added there. But my requirement here is to add one step parallel to the first step number 1. So my first step execution will be done by this time, and I want to add another step. So click on that particular step and add it. So I can directly go for otherwise condition, right? If this is true, this should be happening. Otherwise, I can able to have this value set here. You can able to go for billing dot landmark. So billing dot. So I'm not trying to provide any of the values from the right side. Why? Because I want to set the values blank. Automatically this will be blank and this will be applicable here. So blank values will be applicable. So I want to clear all these fields, right? Whatever the value we're trying to enter, those values are to be cleared out. So that is the thing I'm trying to do. I'm saving it now. So whenever I'm running this activity, it has to initially check whether this checkbox is checked or not. If this is checked, it has to copy the data from one page to another page. Or this is like an individual property set. So this property, individual property value, I'm trying to assign to this individual property. We can able to go for page copy also. I'll show you. And this particular property has been assigned to this particular property. And if this particular checkbox is not checked, we can able to go for when condition and can able to again compare this value with the false. Instead, we can directly go for otherwise case also. For boolean, there will be having only two values, right? There will be only two values, right? So that is the thing. So I'm going for otherwise, and here we can able to have this value blank. So I'm already saved this, I think. So now let me call this particular data transform on the click of this particular checkbox. So this is my checkbox, and this checkbox is included into this section, right? Let me go to the particular section, and on clicking action, click on action, click on change. Whenever I change this particular thing, I want to have this particular data transform to be executed. Okay, we can able to have this data transform here also. Clear, right? Sorry, I have to call it in the data transform. So I'm submitting this. And save it now. So now let me run this, or let me refresh this. It should be fine. So I'm entering some values here. So now on clicking on this, this should be happening. So this is not happening. So let me trace it. So make sure you have data transforms applicable. Yes. So just check this. What are we getting? So billing dot zip code. Okay, these all are good. I mean, but otherwise condition is not being executed, that is okay, and this is executing. So the thing what we are trying to do here is we are missing one thing. So that is
That checkbox false is set, right?
what is it?
Even though we check the checkbox,
Hmm.
the property set as false, right?
Okay, let me check in the clipboard first. This should be updated to true now. Let
Yeah.
me check in the clipboard. What's that property name? Is billing and shipping. Yeah, this is true only. If I'm unchecking this, if I'm clicking on clipboard, so this is getting false. So this is working fine. So on clicking on this is getting fine. There should be data also copied. Shipping. We can able to have all this data included here. And on billing we should be getting the data. Even here on billing also we are getting the data. Okay, we can able to see the data on marking this in the shipping page as well as the billing page, but it's not reflecting here. The thing here is whatever the data we have in the clipboard, that is not being copied. If I'm just checking this, data transform is executing 100% successful. That's what we are trying to understand using clipboard. So this value is getting updated as true or false, and shipping values are being updated in the clipboard, as well as the billing page is also getting updated in the clipboard. But the problem here is whatever the data we are seeing in the billing page in the clipboard, that is not getting copied. Why it is not getting copied? Any guess? Although I'm trying to refresh the page here, right? So if I just click on this, I have already refreshed the page, if you remember. So if I'm trying to refresh the page, whatever the data we have in the clipboard, that has to be coming there onto the UI. So we're trying to refresh the whole section, but still we are not getting the data. So there will be one common mistake people will be doing here. The thing here is, if I'm trying to add the refresh, so on clicking on this, data transform will be applicable. I mean, it will be executed. Then it will be copying the data onto the clipboard. That is usual process. And whatever the data we have in the clipboard, that has to be refreshed into our section. So that is the reason we'll be having this refresh. Okay, but it is not working as of now. Why? So if I just click on this, data transform is executed and it will be executing the section. What section it is executing here? It will be executing this section only. Okay, from wherever we are trying to call this, only this section will be executed. But we are having this particular billing section here. I want to execute, sorry, I want to refresh the whole section. If I'm trying to refresh this whole section, then we will be having the data copied from clipboard to billing. So this is the most common mistake what people does. So the thing what we have to do here is, we have to refresh the other section. If I'm trying to check this checkbox, I don't want to refresh this shipping section. Instead, I want to refresh this main section. Okay, for that, go to the target page and click on other section. And now we have to refresh the other thing. If I'm trying to refresh this section, whatever the data we have in the clipboard, that will be copied there, and vice versa. Transaction will be happening. It will be interacting with the clipboard, either putting the data there or copying the data from there. So I'm submitting it. Let me check. So this will be updated automatically. So are we getting the data now? So this is the most common mistake what people will be doing. So if I'm unchecking this else condition, I mean otherwise condition of the data transform will be executed, and it has to clear all these values. So that is the concept. Clear now? So whatever the value I enter here, on clicking on this, it has to run one data transform where it has to just check for the condition whether the checkbox is true or not. If it is not true, then it will be clearing all the values. If it is true, then it has to copy the data as it is from that property to this property, and this should be made read only, right? So for that also we can able to, so this should be made read only. We can able to make this read only from here also. So read only, it should not be always, it should be based on the expression. So is bill and same, we can able to open this. Is ship and bill is true. Okay, if this particular expression is true, then it will be making read only. If I'm unchecking this will be turned to false, right? So then it will not be read only. So let me save this. So initially I can able to enter any values anywhere. Okay, now if I just check this, I have to just copy the data from there to here, putting it like read only. Okay, customer should not be allowed to make any modifications here. you have to just copy the data from there. This will be the very important real-time scenario business requirement. If I'm just unchecking this, we should be having the data editable. We can able to enter any data here. So if I'm trying to check it again, then it will be again copying the thing. Whatever the data we have entered there, that has to be copied. Clear, right? If I'm just clicking on this, again data transform will be executed and it will be removing the data from here and it will be making editable. Suppose in the same data transform, if I want to copy the data from one page to another page, so here what we're trying to do, we're trying to copy the property, single value property to single value property. So instead what we can able to do, we can directly go for page copy. So for that we can able to go for update page. Let me check out this. It will not take more than 2 minutes. Let me do that. So let me go for update page. So if this when condition is true only, I'm trying to go for update page. I want to update the billing page with values of shipping page. Clear, right? So I want to go for property set door number is equal to door number. Landmark is equal to landmark. Street name is equal to street name. So I'm trying to copy the data from one page to another page by update page method, update page action. Those are not the methods, those are actions. So otherwise we can able to have this, or we can able to again go for update page also. Otherwise, let me go for update page. I want to update the billing page I want to update this billing page with no values. So I want to put it like blank. Okay, so just save this. So if this is when condition is getting true, then it will be updating this page. If this when condition is false, it has to update this one. So we'll be getting the same output. Clear, right? And if we uncheck this, else condition will be working. So page copy. So this will be updating the whole page with the blank values, and this will be updating the whole page with this page data of this page. So that's the concept of data transform. So in the next class, I will show you how to call this particular. I will work on the same requirement only. How to copy the data from, how to call this data transform from activities, and then after I'll show you how to clear the whole things. Suppose if I then in the tomorrow's requirement, what we'll be discussing is I'll be putting one link here, link to clear all the fields. Suppose if this is the case, and if I want to clear whole things, so I'll be putting one link here. By clicking on the link, this should be cleared off. This all these four fields are to be cleared, and these four fields are to be cleared, and this should be unchecked. So this should be the thing what should be coming if I'm just clicking on reset. Okay, if I'm trying to reset this, click on reset, it has to show like this. So if we have time, you can able to practice it. I mean, you can able to implement this. Anyways, I'll tell this tomorrow also. Clear, right? So if I just click on reset link here, this is how it should be looking at. Whatever the earlier screen might be, we can able to enter few values, or it might be in the read only, or it might be checked also. Whatever the thing it might be, we should be having this looking like this. Okay, clear, right? And I'll show you how to call this from the activity also using apply data transform method. Clear? Any doubts?
Clear, Chandra.
Interesting, no?
Clear.
Okay, then we'll meet tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Chandra.
Yeah, thank you.